Decoding Ezekiel's terrifying living creatures. Picture this: a being with 4 different faces: a man, a lion, an ox, and an eagle. Its body is covered in wings, and it moves like a flash of lightning. Beside it are huge glowing wheels that can move in any direction without ever turning. Now, this isn't some monster from a fantasy novel. This is a vision from the Bible seen by the prophet Ezekiel. For centuries, these absolutely terrifying living creatures have baffled and fascinated us. So what are they? Angels, alien spacecraft, or something else entirely? Today, we're going to decode the rich symbolism of Ezekiel's vision to uncover a breathtaking message about the very nature of God. To really get this vision, you have to understand the man who saw it and the world he was living in. Ezekiel was a priest, and he was living through one of the darkest chapters in Israel's history. The Babylonian exile his people had been conquered. Their temple in Jerusalem was about to be destroyed, and they were forced to march hundreds of miles to live as captives in a foreign land. This was a crisis of faith like no other. The exiles must have felt totally abandoned, wondering if their God had been defeated by the powerful gods of Babylon. It's right there, in that moment of despair, by the Kabar River in modern-day Iraq, that the heavens open. Ezekiel sees a fiery storm cloud approaching, and from inside it, these 4 impossible beings emerge. But this isn't just a random collection of bizarre images. It's a carefully crafted message of hope and power, meant to tell the exiles, and us, that God isn't confined to one place, and He has not abandoned His people. Section 1. The Vision Unpacked. Ezekiel himself seems to be struggling to describe what he's seeing. He keeps using phrases like the likeness of or the appearance of, which tells us he's trying to put something into words that's almost beyond human comprehension. He sees 4 living creatures, which are later identified as cherubim. These are a high-ranking order of angelic beings who serve as guardians of God's holiness and throne. We actually first meet cherubim way back in the book of Genesis, where they're placed with a flaming sword to guard the way to the Garden of Eden. They are always associated with the direct, awe-inspiring presence of God. But the cherubim Ezekiel sees are on another level. He's witnessing the very throne chariot of God, a kind of mobile command center for the King of the universe. This vision is the first sign that God isn't stuck back in Jerusalem. He is present and active, even in the land of their enemies. To get the full picture, we've got to break down the symbolism, starting with the wildest feature, the 4 faces. Section 2. The 4 faces of creation. Each of these 4 creatures has 4 faces, and they aren't random. Ezekiel sees the face of a man, a lion, an ox, and an eagle. Scholars believe these faces are symbolic, representing all of creation, with each face standing for the best in its class. The face of the man represents humanity, with our intelligence and reason. The face of the lion, the king of wild beasts, symbolizes royalty, power, and authority. The face of the ox, the strongest domesticated animal, stands for strength, service, and sacrifice. And the face of the eagle, the ruler of the skies, represents speed, transcendence, and a heavenly perspective. Together, these 4 faces are a declaration that God's authority extends over every part of the created world: the wild, the domesticated, the human, and the heavenly. It's a complete picture of total dominion. As a cool theological side note, early Christian writers like Irenaeus saw a link between these 4 faces and the 4 Gospels. Matthew presents Jesus as the King, the Lion of Judah. Mark shows him as a suffering servant, the sacrificial ox. Luke focuses on his perfect humanity, the Son of Man, and John reveals his divine nature, soaring to heavenly heights like the eagle. Whether that was part of the original intent or not, it shows just how profound this imagery is, pointing to the all-encompassing nature of God's rule. Section 3. Wings and eyes, omnipresence and omniscience. The creatures' bodies are just as symbolic as their faces. Ezekiel says they have 4 wings. With 2 wings they covered their bodies in a gesture of humility before God, and with 2 they flew, and their movement. It's like a flash of lightning, shooting forward in any direction without ever needing to turn. This instant, unwavering movement symbolizes God's omnipresence, his ability to be anywhere and act anywhere instantly. He's not limited by space or time. Then there are the eyes. In Ezekiel's first vision, he's awestruck that the rims of the giant wheels are covered with eyes. But when he sees the vision again later in chapter 10, it's even more intense. The creatures' whole bodies, their backs, hands, and wings, are also full of eyes. The symbolism is chillingly clear. This represents God's omniscience. Nothing is hidden from his sight. For the exiled Israelites, who felt forgotten and unseen, this was a shocking message of comfort. Even here in Babylon, God's eyes are on you for their captors. It was a warning. No act of injustice goes unnoticed. God is the all-seeing judge. Section 4. The wheels within wheels. As if the creatures weren't mind-bending enough, Ezekiel then describes the most debated part of the vision, the wheels. Next to each cherub is a massive, gleaming wheel, sparkling like a precious stone. But these are no ordinary wheels. He describes them as a wheel within a wheel, set at right angles to each other. This bizarre design allowed them to move in any direction, forward, backward, left, or right, without turning, staying in perfect sync with the creatures. The spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels, showing a perfect unity of purpose. This imagery is a powerful statement about God's control over history. While human events can look chaotic and random, the wheels of God's plan are moving with perfect precision. They can change direction in an instant, guided by the Spirit, showing that God is in complete control of where history is headed. The tall and awesome rims of the wheels are also covered in eyes, reinforcing that God's guidance is all-seeing and all-knowing. This isn't some blind force at work. It's an intelligent, vigilant power steering all of creation toward its ultimate goal. Section 5. The big picture. Majesty, not machines. So what do we get when we put it all together? The 4 faces of creation, the lightning-fast wings of omnipresence, the all-seeing eyes of omniscience, and the multi-directional wheels of sovereign control. You get a picture, not of a machine, but of majesty. In the 20th and 21st centuries, it became popular to claim that Ezekiel saw an alien spaceship. But that's a modern idea forced onto an ancient text, and it misses the entire point by taking the symbolism literally. Ezekiel was using imagery his audience would have understood. Winged, composite creatures like the Lamassu, massive statues of bulls or lions with human heads and wings, were common symbols of power at the gates of Babylonian palaces. Ezekiel takes this familiar imagery and brilliantly flips it to make a radical point. The God of Israel is far superior to all the gods of Babylon. His throne isn't a dead statue in a temple. It's a living, moving, all-powerful command center that rules the entire cosmos. The fire, lightning, and gleaming metal aren't describing technology. They're conveying the pure, terrifying holiness of God. This isn't a UFO sighting, it's a theophany, a manifestation of God himself, using symbols that communicated his transcendent power to that original audience. Conclusion. The vision of the living creatures builds to a climax where Ezekiel sees what's above them. He describes a vast expanse like a crystal sky, and above that, a throne of sapphire. And on the throne, he sees a figure glowing like fire, the likeness of the glory of the Lord. Faced with this overwhelming majesty, Ezekiel does the only thing a person could do. He falls on his face. And that's the ultimate point of this bizarre and terrifying vision. It's not a blueprint for an angel or a spaceship. It's a symbolic masterpiece designed to humble us and to blow up our small, comfortable ideas about God. It tells us that God is sovereign over all creation. He is present everywhere. He sees everything, and his purpose moves through history with unstoppable force. The strangeness of the vision is the point. It shatters our neat little boxes for the divine and confronts us with a God who is infinitely more powerful, majestic, and awesome than we can possibly imagine. The living creatures aren't a puzzle to be solved, but a portrait to be awed by. A portrait of the King of the universe, enthroned in glory. What part of this vision blows your mind the most? The four faces, the wheels full of eyes, or something else? Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this deep dive into biblical symbolism. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next exploration. Thanks for watching.